Hey
Hey
guys,
guys.
I'm Anna,
I'm Emily.
and welcome back to our new podcast.
Ruminate.
Today we are joined by a very special guest, one of my closest friends from college.
Hi guys, I'm Hallie.
We're going to be talking about love bombing, our experiences with it, as well as how to recognize it and avoid it in the future.
Love bombing, in its short definition, is manipulative overaffection in the beginning stages of dating.
First, we're going to jump into signs to watch out for. One of the signs to watch out for is excessive compliments, messages, and gifts. Have you guys experienced this before?
I don't know what I would consider an excessive compliment because I'm someone that likes a lot of compliments, but what do you guys think is like a talking stage? Like, what's a normal amount of compliments
I
to
think
get?
there's not really a number. It's more so, is this person giving me compliments that they could say to any other girl, or are they actually making an effort to get to know me? Because sometimes I've noticed that guys can seem like they know who I am without really knowing me, or they try to.
And that's how you know that they're probably saying this to every other girl.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they don't know you, but they're infatuated with you.
Right.
Going into excessive messages, the first guy I dated, seriously, he would send me paragraphs all the time. And I feel like that was very obsessive. And he'd be like, oh, I can't wait for life with you. And I'm just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Life with me?
Or if you've left them on delivered and they're like, why aren't you answering me? But it's literally been 30 minutes and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm just living life.
You're like, I have a life, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ever got me excessive gifts because I feel like I'm not at the age where men have a lot of money and can go and do that.
True.
I mean, now I get gifts in my current relationship, but I'm talking about love bomb. I feel like I haven't really heard anyone get like excess gifts of love bombing.
I would say I've been love bombed twice, and the first time he spent a lot of money on dates, and our first date he spent a lot of money on me. One way people can show affection is through spending money on you. I just thought it was interesting how much he spent without really knowing me.
Was he your first?
Not my first boyfriend,
No.
no.
Okay, so then this must have been new and it must have been exciting.
With the second time I got love bombed, he kept saying like he would provide for me and stuff, and that's good, but at the same time I felt like he said so many things to me that he was saying to other girls, and it wasn't special because he really didn't know me when he was showing me so much affection. And it's one thing to receive that from somebody who knows who you are, that's special, but when it's somebody who barely knows you, it almost is worse because I'm like, why would you say that to me? And I know you're saying it to other people because I know I'm not the only person you're talking to. It's obvious. Yeah.
I feel like it's different. Like, it's not special, especially like when you don't know them well and you're like, okay, why are you saying these things? This doesn't make sense. Like, you don't know me that well. Why are you saying you're going to provide for me?
Yeah. You want to assume the best and be like, yeah, I get why you like me, but then it's like, well, you shouldn't like me that much yet.
Yeah, I feel like that's weird. Another thing to watch for is early I love yous and rush commitment, which I feel is like a big one for love bombing.
I think for me, I'm not sure about the rushed commitment. I guess in a way they wanted to both be exclusive pretty early, which I didn't really have a problem with, but I almost think that they would say I want a relationship, but they didn't actually want one, but they would say that to get me attached.
Yeah, I can see that. What do you think like rush commitment is? Do you think it's the promise of them being like, oh yeah, I really want to date you? Or do you think that it's like they actually get with you?
I think it's the promise and also talking about a potential future when you barely know them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it can be both. It can be something as small as, yeah, I'm gonna pin you, and you've hung out once. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, like on Snapchat?
Yeah. I had a guy say that to me the other day, and I was
You're my
like,
number one best friend.
I was like, please don't pin me on your phone.
I just feel like they think they're doing so much by saying all these over affectionate things, but in reality, unless you're already attached, you're kind of aware of the fact of, okay, you clearly don't know me that well, so it's not special that you're saying these things because you don't know me well enough for it to mean anything to me.
So let's say your love language is words of affirmation and someone is going and saying I love you, or like we said earlier, if your love language is gifts, you're more likely to fall for someone that's love bombing you if they can figure out your love language.
Yeah,
Right.
whether it be like consciously or subconsciously, like,
Mhm.
if they can figure that out, they can play it to their strengths.
If someone has certain attachment issues and they really want to be in a relationship and someone's promising them a relationship, I feel like they're more likely to jump into because like they want it so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had the person that was love bombing you isolate you from your support network?
Whenever I experienced love bombing, he tried to take up all my time and not keep me from hanging out with other people, but asking me to hang out so often that I couldn't hang out with other people.
Mhm.
And that ended up starting to cause some problems because my mom would say, Hallie, why are you always at this boy's house? You're never with us and he never comes here. What's going on that you don't want to bring him around? And I was like, nothing's going on. He just never gives me a chance to invite him over because he's always the one inviting me first.
Do you think your parents would have liked him more if he would have came over to your house?
I think so. My parents aren't very social, so when he would come over, we would just go to my room and stay to ourselves, which didn't really help foster a bond.
What about you? Did your partners ever isolate you?
I don't necessarily think isolate, but the first one, we would hang out almost every day. And I think that's isolating in a way, but at the same time, he really wanted to meet my friends and spend time with them too. This was at college, and he lived an hour away, and he would still drive almost every day to come see me. And I don't know if that's isolating or not.
Do you think it ever made you feel guilty that he was making that sacrifice for you, that you felt like you owed him something?
No, because I didn't bring my car down my freshman year of college.
Oh.
And that's why he would do that.
I see.
And he wanted to. And later on, he used it against me, saying, I wasted so many miles on you. I'm like, you wanted to do that. And with the second one, isolating, I don't think so, because they both introduced me to their families, and the second one didn't introduce me to his friends, but I introduced him to my friends. So maybe with him, it depends on what you think isolating is. When it comes to the only person we're spending time with is each other, not really.
It's not healthy for your partner to isolate you. And if you are at a mature state and know what you want, which after this episode, you'll learn what love bombing is and how to avoid it. If you are close with your friends, if you wouldn't allow that to happen, to be isolated from your support group.
If you genuinely like someone and someone genuinely likes you, you want to introduce them to your friends, and they would want to introduce you to their friends and family.
I think it's a really big red flag if your partner doesn't like your friends.
I think it's an even bigger red flag when your friends don't like your partner.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's how you know.
When I hear the word isolating, I also take that as them hiding you from everybody.
True.
Yeah. Or even just like verbally saying things to get you to move away from your support network, trying to create drama between you and your friends, you and your family.
Like, I'm the only one who cares about you that much, and I'm the only one who understands you. That could also be a form of isolating too.
Another sign to watch out for, Hallie talked about before we started this episode, which is love bombing is a cycle. Would you like to talk about that?
Love bombing starts out as a honeymoon phase where you're getting to know each other and they're giving you all these excessive compliments and things that we've talked about, and that's how they get you attached to them because you get so used to that like serotonin boost. Yeah, because who doesn't love affection? And then when they stop it, it makes you chase them more because you're chasing that affection back. So you're chasing it until you realize you're not getting it. Then you start to pull away. They're going to reel you back in and the cycle continues.
In the end, they are the ones that have control.
Yeah.
In our Healing After Heartbreak episode, we talked a lot about anxious and avoidant attachment and the codependency and how it is push and pull. This is very similar. Oftentimes, love bombing does happen between an anxious attachment and an avoidant attachment. It very much is a cycle because once they get you attached, they will pull away because they don't see the point in putting that much effort in anymore, because that's a show. That's totally a facade. They're putting that much effort in to pretend to be somebody they're not, to get you attached. Once you're attached, why would they continue to show that effort? If you're smart enough, you'll pull away. And then Hallie said that's when they'll do the whole thing over again.
Not necessarily in a love bombing way, but at the beginning of a relationship, everyone does kind of put on a facade, trying to look a little bit better, trying to present yourself better when they ask you your hobbies. I spend a lot of time on TikTok. I'm not going to list that as a hobby. I'm going to tell people something I do, even if it is less often, because you want to make yourself look good. It becomes love bombing when it gets out of hand.
Yeah. You were going on, you're like, yeah, I love TikTok.
It's one thing to want to present your best self to someone that you like. It's another thing to pretend to be somebody that you're not, to get them to like you.
Okay, I see what
Or
you're
to
saying.
have fake feelings and over-exaggerate your affection for someone.
I get kind of confused when someone fakes feelings because I'm like, how do you have the capacity to carry this on? I don't think that makes someone feel good. How do you continue to be fake and carry on like this act? Did you ever think about that when you're with your partners, or are they just so messed up that that's the only way they see loving someone?
I think that carries us into what we're going to talk about next, why people do love bomb. It's definitely a control thing. A lot of the reason why people will do this is because they need an ego boost. They want the control. They're insecure. They know if they were their genuine selves, they wouldn't be able to get you. They're probably hurt by a past person, so they want that validation. Maybe it's not necessarily, oh, they're just so messed up. I mean, they could be, but I think it's just an ego boost, and they're wanting to get what they want the easiest way and fastest way. And fastest way to do that is seem genuine.
Do you think it's hard to see through their fake genuineness?
I definitely struggle with that sometimes because you want to believe the best in people.
Mm-hmm.
If you like someone, you want to believe that they like you back.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it can be hard to decipher.
The guys that you dated and got love bombed by, would you say that they were insecure or they wanted control? What do you personally think was their driving factor if you had to guess?
An interesting thing on my part is both of the guys flat out told me, Emily, you're too good for me. It sounds so conceited of me to say, but they flat out both told me that. And then guess what? They always go for easier after you.
Prove to themselves that they could get you in the first place, maybe?
I think they are both very insecure because they both opened up to me about their insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
A big reason why I did get attached to them is one of the first things they did was open up about their traumas. And then I'm an empathetic person. I would relate to them. Okay, well, I can understand how this person feels. Like they've been through something just as bad as me. So why would they ever hurt me?
Trauma bond.
And that was a big part of how they would get me attached. I think they were aware of every single second of it.
Have we learned from that now, Em?
I think so.
Okay, good.
I hope so. I'm really aware of what these patterns look like now that it's happened to me twice. It wasn't just a one-time thing. There's a lot of similarities with both guys, honestly. And I do often say all the guys that I've talked to have been significantly different in their own ways. But in these two situations, I've seen a lot of similarities in how they acted and what they said.
I'm so happy that it wasn't third time's the charm where I learned my lesson. Like, you learned on the second one, and I am proud of that.
Much appreciated because emotional trauma.
I had a guy, and he kind of on the same note, he was like, Hallie, if we ever break up, like, it'd be you breaking up with me. Like,
oh my
God.
God.
Go with you.
I've heard that from both of them,
yes.
too.
And I just,
that is crazy. Do all men say that? I genuinely want to know. I mean, I did break up.
Take a survey.
I did. Let's
For all of our male viewers, let us know.
Do you tell women this?
They did both tell me that.
My past two boyfriends said the same exact thing. Did I break up with both of them?
Yes.
They were honest.
Yeah. Partially you feel bad for them because they're insecure, but then also I kind of got the ick. And I was like, oh, like, you're right. Or we'd get into like, and people are like, love you more. I'd be like, yeah, like, you do love me more. Like,
you didn't say love you most. You were like yeah, love ya.
I'd play into it so he didn't feel bad, but then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, like, this is not true.
I think both of the guys who love bombed me both had longer relationships before me, and both of those relationships, the girl ended it with them, and they would open up about how hurt they were from that and how they would never break up with somebody because they just don't give up and they always provide and try so hard.
Do you think that them saying that is kind of manipulative to act like they're giving you the power, like, oh, you have the power to, like, if
like,
we
don't break my heart.
Yes. So then you stay with them. Cause
going off of Emily talking about boys who have been in a longer relationship in the past, I think sometimes when they know they can't go back to the ex, they just want to try to recreate that relationship. And so they're coming in hot and heavy with the love bombing, trying to make some great, huge connection and recreate the deep connection they had with the last girl.
I think
Emily, does this sound familiar to you? Is she telling your life story?
I think love bombing is so common whenever you're the girl after the girl they had a long relationship with. I think that's when it's the most common.
Yeah. Guys, I think we've we've found another reason why people might love bomb.
Because back to what we said about the control, narcissism, and insecurity, they want the control because they didn't have it in their last relationship. They're insecure because of how they're hurt by the past girl. Right.
Wow, we're connecting so many dots here.
And I'm not necessarily saying it has to be right after they were in a long relationship, but I think it's common just because they do want that control that they didn't have and they're insecure. Could they want that control and be insecure for other reasons? For sure. But the way I've seen it is, oh, you're a great girl, and I haven't really found that since the girl I was with for a long time. And I want something from you. Yeah. I want you to make me feel better. And how I can do that, the only way I can get you is to be over affectionate, get you attached. And once you're attached, that's going to make me feel better. That's going to boost my ego.
Mm-hmm. True. Now that we know what love bombing is, some signs to watch out for, and people, why they might do it. And do you have any stories that really stand out to you in those relationships you were in that you're like, this was the day, this is what happened?
Okay, so I've known this guy for a long time, but we recently started talking, and just a few days into talking, he mentioned that he's going to a concert in August or September, and he kind of brought it up, and he's like, yeah, I have an extra ticket. And I'm like, okay, don't tell me that, because now I want to go, and you're getting my hopes up, and that's kind of love bombing because it makes me want to date him so I can go to this concert.
Also knowing that I have to talk to him until the concert to even go as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of like keeping you attached. Oh, we have to stay together until this concert. Mm-hmm. And then he brought up another one that's happening in July and is like, oh, do you want to come with me to this one? And I'm like, okay, this one's in the near future. Maybe. So I'm like, yeah, how much are the tickets? And he's like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, you could be a gentleman or you could be love bombing me with gifts. And he's like, yeah, it'll be a trial run for the one coming later. And I'm like, oh.
He's a smooth talker, though. Oh, my goodness.
Alright, so for my first one, within 2 weeks of knowing each other, less than 2 weeks after our first date, he got a hotel for a weekend in KC and wanted me to show him around.
What?
For the whole weekend and wanted me to show him around.
Stranger danger.
And then the second one, he wanted me to meet his parents so early, and I would go over to his house and I would spend the night, but we weren't dating or anything, so I was like, I don't want to meet your parents unless we're dating because I just don't see how that would be special. And he was like, you mean enough to me for me to want to introduce you to my parents. I don't just introduce any girls to my parents. So I think that was his way.
If that's love bombing, then I have been love bombed a lot. I feel like it's so weird.
I just feel like it was love bombing because he didn't know who I was, and then he was saying, well, I wouldn't just want to introduce you to them if you were just any girl. Just singling me out and saying, well, you're special enough. I'm like, you don't know who I am. Like, I appreciate that. That's nice to hear. Mm-hmm. But also, that seems like you're just trying to get me to be more attached to you by saying, but I'm not doing this with anybody else, and you barely know me.
Yeah. And after hearing some examples, do you think you've been love bombed?
The one Emily just said just reminded me. In college, my freshman year, there was someone, and we had gone on maybe 2 dates, but he did not know me. We did not get deep into questions. He really didn't know anything about me. And then he was like, during winter break, you can come meet my family. And I was like, what the hell? I was like,
because that just gives like desperation, I guess.
That's weird. I'm like, you don't know me. I mean, I wasn't offering that. So I'm like, I feel like they shouldn't offer that, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, if you want to introduce me to your parents and like we don't even know each other that well, I'm like, are you introducing everyone? Like, does everyone meet your family? Because this is kind of crazy that I'm going to meet them.
It's like, how are you supposed to introduce somebody that you don't even know yourself to your family?
And then what do you say? Like,
he knew, hey, like, Mom, the surface level.
This is Anna. Like,
this is my more than a friend.
Like, what relationship?
Next, self-protection and strategies to try to avoid this in the future.
I think the most important thing is being cautious when you're getting to know someone. It is so easy whenever you catch feelings for somebody and you do get attached for that to completely mask a lot of common sense. And when you do have feelings, it does seem to alter the way you think. So I think the most important thing you are able to do is to just be careful and not have your guard up too much to the point where you're not able to get to know someone, but also don't go into it so trusting of them when you don't know them either. Not only do they not know you, you don't know them.
If you've had a bad relationship, you know that you go and talk to most people with your wall up, but that's also not healthy. But being so gullible and falling for people too fast is very dangerous.
I think it's just a balance of both of those things.
That kind of goes along with setting boundaries. So saying like, oh, hey, like maybe we shouldn't hang out every day, or like, oh, I don't want you to spend over this much amount of money. We can do simple dates and it doesn't have to be anything extravagant.
I don't know if you guys would count this as a boundary, so let me know. But going back to them wanting you to meet their family, I knew that it wasn't right and that I shouldn't meet them, and so I didn't. And that I feel like was a big boundary. Saying it nicely and saying like, okay, thanks for wanting me to meet them, but I just don't think that that's right for me to do.
Yeah, like it's too soon.
I think it's a matter of saying, I feel like I don't know you well enough, and even if you feel like you know me, which you really don't, even if you feel like that, I think it's a matter of I want to get to know you more before ever meeting the people that mean the most to you.
I also didn't want to meet someone's family if, I don't want to say like love a person, but like if I couldn't fully see a future with them and I'm still getting to know them, like I don't want to meet your family. Like I have to really like you to want to go and meet your family.
When you guys say meeting a family, I think it kind of depends on the stage of life you're in, because if you're in college and you're home for the summer and they come to stay, they're going to meet your family, or like they can come even just to pick you up on a date. Some people want to come inside and meet your parents because that's how they were raised, or like some parents want to meet, my parents want to meet the guys I go on dates with. To me, it's more of a lighthearted thing, but I think as you get older, it becomes a more serious thing.
If we're going on a date, I'm sorry, but like I'm not letting you meet my parents unless we're very serious. Like if this is our first date, you are not meeting my family.
I kind of like it. My dad's kind of scary, so I think it's funny to be like, oh, yep, you got to come to the door like a gentleman. God. I'm not walking out to the car.
My dad is so different with men and women. Like when I have you guys over, he's like, oh, hey. And then I have like a guy over and he's like, hey. I'm like, okay, Dad.
He's got to put on a tough face.
Yeah, you're his little girl. That's fine.
Yeah, that's true. I think another self-protection strategy would be lean on friends, family, or even professionals for support. Like if you have a therapist, I know it's nice to say, this is what's going on in my life, and like bring up your relationship. And I feel like they can be really helpful to give you healthy tips and like opinions
and help you balance.
And of course, like your family and friends, their opinion matters, like how you said in the beginning. If your friends don't like who you're talking to, that's a big red flag. And same with your family, because they've known you your whole life. Always listen to your gut feeling. If you feel this person is being not honest and not genuine, trust yourself. I hope you guys have good intuition. And I feel like you can so easily tell when someone isn't being genuine.
Yeah.
At least I can see through it more now than maybe I could before, but Em could see it in her. She didn't get through like the third one for love bombing, so you could spot it.
It did take 2 times for me to recognize what was going on.
I think it also
I love to give people the benefit of the doubt, especially when I have emotions for them.
Yeah, you give people a lot of chances.
Yeah. And I think that's a good and a bad thing, and I have to be very careful on who I do give those chances to, because it can end up hurting me, and I've seen that twice now. Going through it, as bad as it was, taught me a lot how a relationship should be and how it should start and how it shouldn't be super rushed, and how it's actually bad when they're so attached without knowing you.
I think if you're trying to listen to your gut and you're confused about your feelings, sometimes even just saying it out loud helps me. If I'm talking to my friends about this guy, I start telling them stories. As the words are coming out of my mouth, I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, this sounds kind of weird. My friends are like, oh my gosh, Hallie, he's literally obsessed with you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like I'm being love bombed.
You're like, I've talked to this man for 2 days. Yeah, that is weird.
I'm like saying it. I'm like, wait, that's actually really cringy. Like, Why did that happen?
I think you need to have a good idea of how you feel on your own, but also I do think those other people's opinions matter because they're an outside perspective. They're not the people who have emotions for this person. And that's good and bad because it could also be bad since they don't know the person and you know them more than they do, but also an outside perspective can be good because there's no emotions in their view. There's nothing blocking them.
But I would
besides the fact they don't know them as well as you do, maybe.
I would say to take your friends and family's concerns not just with a grain of salt, you know? Like, even though they don't know them, how you describe someone has such, like, if it has that big of an impact that they're concerned by their actions, you shouldn't just be like, oh, well, you don't know them.
Yeah. I feel like my mom is always right about people.
My mom definitely is too.
I think it's just a mom thing that they just know. So when in doubt, ask your mom what she thinks of your boyfriend.
Going into recovery tips, after you're taking off the rose-colored glasses and you're seeing this side of them and you are learning kind of just how to listen to your gut and setting boundaries, I would say one of the things that I've learned to get in the best relationship is give yourself the love that you crave. You might really want words of affirmations from someone, but if you're giving them to yourself, you're not going to need that from someone else. It's nice that they give them to you, but don't solely rely on people because then you can fall into that pattern of love bombing if someone is giving you all of that.
I think the biggest thing for me when recovering is to not only think of all the good memories you had with that person, because guess what? A lot of what they showed you wasn't their true self, and you're probably romanticizing things that weren't even fully true. I've had to see those people for who they showed me to be in the end and not just the person I liked in the beginning and who they pretended to be with all of their actions and over affection, because that's not who they truly are, and people will always show you who they truly are in the end.
Would you say that in your guys' relationships where you were being love bombed that they couldn't keep up with their act and that's kind of when the rose-colored glasses started slipping down, or were they constant?
As soon as they knew that I had feelings for them, they recognized it, and then that's when they flipped the switch and backed off. Because they felt like they didn't need to put that extra effort anymore because they knew that that's all they needed to do for me to have feelings and for them to be able to easily manipulate me.
Was that the same for you, or did you have a different experience?
Mine was a little different. So we kind of talked earlier about how love bombing is like the honeymoon stage. So mine was when the honeymoon stage for me ended. I stopped being as infatuated with him and I was content with dating him, but his obsession continued. He kept love bombing me throughout that I started to get kind of weirded out, and I was like, okay, I get being really clingy in the beginning because it's fresh and exciting. Now this is just looking like desperation.
Maybe he was just trying to get that feeling back. Maybe he just liked the chase.
I get the ick really easily. I think he just genuinely I was out of his league, and so he was trying to compensate, but it just gave me the ick.
That's what I was saying earlier. I think they know that they wouldn't be able to normally get you if they acted like their genuine selves, because they don't feel good enough for you. So they pretend to be somebody they're not. And I think that's one of the biggest aspects of love bombing.
Yeah, so just be cautious when you're getting to know people and see the best in people, but also be realistic.
When you talk to your friends, don't let them feed your delusions, okay? He should not be this obsessed with you. You're great, but that's not normal.
It's so easy for that to boost your own ego when you see someone acting that interested in you, that you also have to keep in mind, how much does this person really know me?
Just know you're the shit without having to have male attention.
Exactly.
Yes, and validation. All right, guys. Love bombing, again, as Em described, is
manipulative over-affection in the beginning stages of dating.
And now that you know what love bombing is, be aware and cautious of patterns that might show up in current and future relationships.
I hope that our experiences gave you an idea of what love bombing could look like in situations that maybe you've gone through before or will in the future. Hopefully you won't have to, but it is unfortunately very common.
And a very big possibility.
It's so common that there's a slang term for it, love bombing. So it's definitely real and it can definitely get the best of you.
But you're capable of getting through it.
We believe in you. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for ruminating with us.
Bye.